Welcome back to the Keeping It Real with KC podcast. I, of course, am your host, KC Phoenix. And for those watching the video, I thought that I turned off on my Do Not Disturb. I didn't. That's what I was doing. I thought I turned it on. Okay. Anyways, before I go any further, KIRWKC.com, main podcasting platform. This podcast is carried on Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Overcast, Bullhorn, Amazon Music, Audible, and several other podcasting platforms. Please feel free to listen to this podcast on whatever platform is most convenient for you. KIRWKC on all the social media platforms. Okay, so this is the Quick 3 Tarot. I'm using a different deck today. It's not a tarot deck, because sometimes I do like my oracle decks and things like that. This particular deck is the words of Jesus, is what this is. And this is just sayings in the Bible. So I wanted to do that because I haven't used this in a while. I've used them in some readings and whatnot, but I haven't used it in a while. One of the reasons that I really like that is because it's very inspiring, and also because I don't think sometimes people realize how important Jesus is. Now, for me, definitely I'm more on the spiritual path. I don't know if I would call myself a Christian because for me, I don't like putting myself in a box. I also feel like there are many things that can be learned from all religions. I just believe that. I don't believe anything is completely good or anything is completely bad. So with religion, there are a lot of religions out there that have some very interesting things to them. I will say the most important figure in all religions is Jesus, and that's period. I say that because if you look at the impact, for example, we're in the year 2022, about to go into 2023, which again, 2023 is showtime. It's going to be very interesting, 2023. So get ready. But 2022 going into 2023, which is AD. And I forgot the Latin term for that is, I believe it's Anno Domini, if I'm not mistaken. But what that means in English is after death. So what this is saying is, during this period, AD, this is after the death of, obviously, Christ. Now, anything before, so going backwards from 2022, anything before the death of Christ is BC. So any time period is going to be, 1000 BC or 10,000 BC. What that is saying is that anything before Christ's death, that is how it will be labeled in time. Anything after Christ's death, it will be labeled AD. There isn't anyone in history who has that impact where it's saying, okay, we're going to measure time around the death of Christ. Not any other prophets, not anybody else, not any political figures, not whatever. Not the Pharaoh, not this, not that. We will measure time around the death of Christ. That alone, that type of impact for somebody to say your life, the significance of you being on this planet was so important that we will measure time based off of your death. That is what it is saying, that's a lot. That's an impact. So that's why I always say, like, out of all the prophets and religions and things like that, Jesus is the most important. And it doesn't hurt to at least learn more about Jesus and what he taught. Even if you're not, quote unquote, a Christian, or even if you're Muslim, or even if you're Jewish, or, pick your religion. Whatever religion you are outside of Christianity. If you're something else, it still wouldn't hurt you to learn more about Jesus. And also for the Christians, it wouldn't hurt you to learn more about Islam and other things, because there may be something in there. And actually, especially with Islam and the Jewish religion, there are a lot of similarities between the two. Some of it was intentional, because if you know the story of Islam, then you know about Muhammad and how that was all created. I remember Brigitte Gabrielle was talking about that, like how it was created, and that's one reason why they have similarities. Which it amazes me. The religions are so similar, but for some reason in certain parts of the world they can't get along. Make it make sense. All right, so let's go ahead and hop into this. I'm about to pull 3 cards. I have already set a card to the side that came out in the pre-shuffle. And that one was on my spirit so much I was like, okay, let me set that to the side. So I'll set that to the side. May I have the energy for the collective for Thursday, October the 6th? May I have the energy for the collective for Thursday, October the 6th? May I have the energy for the collective for Thursday, October the 6th? What is it that the collective needs to hear? What is it that the collective needs to hear? What is it that the collective needs to hear? May I have some cards, please? Thank you. May I have another card, please? Thank you. Turn this one over. Okay, turn that over. All right, may I have one more card, please? Thank you. All right. So, first card that came out, it says, "Be encouraged, my child. Your sins are forgiven." And this is, I'm looking in the light here, the lighting. This is Matthew 9th chapter, 2nd verse. It says, "Be encouraged, my child. Your sins are forgiven." Let's see if I can get that a little bit there. So, yeah, it's a little bit hard to see, but there's that one. And then, wow, that is too crazy. Remember when I was talking about how time is based off of this one person? This second card that came out, I promise you I didn't plan this. The second card that came out, it says, "I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end." And for this one, it is, I told you the lighting. I got to get my other, put some light on this. There we go. It is Revelation 22nd chapter 13th verse is what that is. Again, it says, "I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end." All right. And then the third card that came out is, "I am with you always to the end of the age." And that is Matthew 28th chapter 20th verse. And again, I'll read it to you. It says, "I am with you always to the end of the age." Okay. And then the card that came out during the pre-shuffle that I set to the side because I really like this. It says, "Don't let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God and also," let me start over again. "Don't let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God and trust also in me." And that is John 14th chapter, 1st verse. Again, don't let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God and trust also in me, is what that's saying. So, for that, and I'm reading the energy, is what I'm doing. That's why I'm quiet, as I'm looking at these cards. For some of you, this goes back to what I mentioned before. I mentioned this in one of the readings. I forgot which one it was. I think it was probably, today's Thursday. Maybe it was Monday, I think. Or did I do a daily thought that day? It was one of the readings. I feel like I've mentioned this week. Or either it was mentioned in the either the new moon in Libra or maybe the full moon in Aries. But I know I've mentioned it recently. One thing that I have said is that some of you you're doing negative self-talk is what you're doing. You're being hard on yourself. I feel like some of you are being overly judgmental, which is very possible too, because we are in Libra season, but also we just came out of Virgo season. And during that period with Virgos can be very nitpicky, and that's not a bad thing. It's just they like for things to be right. And for some of you, you may feel like things aren't happening the way you would like for them to happen. Or I also hear in my head that some of you feel like you derailed something. Like because of your actions, you feel that those actions kept you from getting to a goal or something that you were attempting to get to. And because of that, you may be feeling like you need to be hard on yourself, or you're negative self-talking yourself. But one thing that I'm picking up with "Be encouraged, my child, your sins are forgiven" is that what you've done doesn't matter, especially if you recognize that you've done something. If you recognize you've done some shenanigans, that's the first step. You're already on the right path to say, oh, okay, you know what? I could have done this differently. If you've already recognized that, then pull it together and move on. Because what this is saying too, with "Be encouraged, my child, all your sins are forgiven," is saying that whatever you do, it matters, but it doesn't. You're forgiven for it, and you need to focus on the future. Don't stay in that 5 of Cups energy where you're focused on the 3 cups that are spilled over instead of the 2 cups that are still standing. This is saying, for me, that you need to focus on the 2 cups is what you need to do. For some of you who are doing that negative self-talk, there is, with this particular card, the one I set to the side, where it says, "Don't let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God and trust also in me." Where it's saying that when something went wrong, you have to trust and have faith that it's going to correct, and that everything that happened, it was for a reason. Because like I was mentioning to one of my viewers in the comment section, I said, you already know the answer to the question of what you need to do. And also, there's no wrong answer. Because the thing is, what people don't realize, whatever decisions you make, it will set you off on a journey. Whichever one is going to set you off on a journey. And one journey might be a little bit bumpy, another journey might be smooth, but the journey is the journey. And whatever journey you go on, it will be a learning experience. So if you choose to do something and you stay stuck in a cycle, okay, fine, you're going to stay stuck in the cycle. That's going to be your journey. During being stuck in that cycle, lessons will be learned. Once you learn the lessons, then you move on to a new cycle. It is what happened. But throughout all of this, whatever cycle you're in, whether you're learning a lesson, whether you're moving on to new things or doing this or doing that, this card is saying that you need to trust that things will work out. You need to trust that God will be with you. You need to trust that the universe has your best interest at heart. It isn't a thing of, oh, well, I'm just on this journey. It's really a thing of, oh, I'm on this journey, and I trust the universe to give me the resources and the tools that I need while I'm on this journey. Because the divine, God, Jesus, Allah, Jehovah, Yahweh, whatever you want to call it, they're watching out for you. The universe is watching out for you. And with the other card that came out, you need to recognize, something is telling me that you need to recognize, some of you thought that the divine had left you, or you thought that nobody cares about you, or that no one's looking out for you. With this card saying, I'm the Alpha and the Omega, I'm the beginning and the end, God is saying that I'm around always. I was around before you, I'm going to be around after you. As long as I'm around, you're being watched in a good way. Because I know I just caught how that came out. It's like, you're being watched. But no, in a good way, where you have someone to talk to. I told you, I talk to God like just randomly checking in, but also if I need help with something, I start praying. And I told you I prayed on something recently. The prayers are pretty much being answered. That situation that I had is coming to a close because I was looking for the answers on something, and it was just round and round and round and round. And then another email came in today adding more clarification. So I'm telling you, it never hurts to pray. I mentioned this a few days ago. It doesn't hurt to pray. And with this, and now I'm hearing that Yolanda Adams song. You know what? If you get a chance, check out this song by Yolanda Adams called Just a Prayer Away. It's called Just a Prayer Away. Check out that song. It's by Yolanda Adams. But going back to this, God's never left you. And I was planning on doing a daily thought about that because it just amazes me, like a lot of people who, a lot of Christians as well, are saying we need to bring God back. We need to bring God back. I'm like, God, when did he leave? Where did he go? God is everywhere. So how did he go? Don't get me started. That's going to be another daily thought. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel like that. You need to recognize that you are not alone. Some of you may feel like you're alone, but you're not. And if you trust, you'll be surprised. If you trust in your prayers, you will be surprised what will happen. And if you trust in the journey, you'll be surprised too. And then also, this confirms what I was talking about just a second ago. Because when it says, I am with you always to the end of the days, this is confirmation that the divine is always with you, even when you feel like you're alone. You're not. And honestly, that's your message. I'm probably going to title this, You Have to Trust That You Are Not in This Alone. I think that's what I'm going to title that. But yeah, KIRWKC.com, main podcasting platform. This podcast is carried on Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Overcast, Bullhorn, Amazon Music, Audible, and several other podcasting platforms. Please feel free to listen to this podcast on whatever platform is most convenient for you. KIRWKC on all the social media platforms. Till next time, be blessed.